Now, New Zealand First has launched its election year bid to get back into Parliament. Leader Winston Peters joined the party faithful for their annual conference in Auckland at the weekend, and he says he has high hopes. He joins me now. Good morning, Mr Peters. Thanks for coming in. Now, you say John Key's popularity is undeserved. He's the most popular Prime Minister we've had in years. Why don't you think his popularity is deserved?
Well, if you ask a series of questions such as, has he provided a vision for this country? Has he offered hope to young people? Has he stopped the sale of assets to overseas interests? Has the share market turned around in terms of overseas ownership? To all of those questions, which would be fundamental in any democracy, the answer is no. And maybe it's because he's not being questioned enough by people like yourself and the commentators.
Okay.
There seems to be some sort of love fest going on as we slide down the OECD to the bottom.
Okay, is it also because John Key has said for a second election, Mr Peters, that he won't work with you? He says a vote for New Zealand First, a vote for Winston Peters is a wasted vote.
Well, it could hardly be based on that, could it? And it's not a wasted vote. That was the lie that was spread last time, and we just missed out by that much despite a vicious 5-month campaign and that sort of political tactic. It won't work this time, I can assure you.
He said he'll work with Hyde, he'll work with Brash.
Well, no,
why would he work with you?
He'll work with racists, he'll work with people who are separatists, he'll work with people who are so out of touch in terms of this country's economic and social needs. They're off the planet. But it's a tactic to try and stop the one party that can hold the difference, and that party is New Zealand First. And if you look at the contortions they're going to in places like Waimakariri, New Plymouth and Epsom, I mean, it does make your head hurt.
There are,
they're doing it because they don't think your polls are worth the paper they're written on. Otherwise they wouldn't have to, would they? Sure,
there are deals going on, as you said, Waimakariri and Epsom, but we do know where there are deals going on. What we don't know is where you're going to stand. Why
well, first of all, we're not a Klingon party. We do not do deals behind the public's back. We'll decide after the election, when the public first decide, which is, after all, the essence of democracy. But here's the real point. The board will decide very shortly what Winston Peters will be doing in this campaign. I will certainly be campaigning across the country, but a decision as to where will be made by the board based on the party's plan and strategy.
Our political editor, Duncan Garner, did a report some time ago and suggested you might stand in Helensville against John Key. That would get you an enormous amount of publicity, give you a chance to go toe-to-toe with the Prime Minister.
Well,
would you consider that?
But we'll go toe-to-toe with the Prime Minister across this country in more meetings than he'll ever have in the next 3 months. And, you know, with the great respect to Duncan Garner, perhaps you should ask the person involved, namely me, before you beat your gums on the media.
Would you stand in Helensville? Would you consider
Again, we've made no such decision. The board will decide that shortly.
Okay, another option would be potentially Epsom. There's quite a deal that's gone on there. John Banks is supposedly, according to Don Brash, is going to win that electorate. You could give him a pretty good run for his money there.
Well, actually, I was polling far higher than the ACT Party was in Epsom, in the one poll that looks credible there. But let me say that we don't want to get involved in this sordid cronyism politics that the National Party and ACT Party are involved in. You know, it gives democracy a dirty name.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of your policy that you talked about over the weekend. One of your Trump policies, if you like, is you want to crack down on child abuse. Look,
New Zealand First has a significant Maori membership. And we know that it's over to us to solve this problem. I've seen all the hype and the spin and all the useless reports that are not going to solve this problem in one of the worst brutalisation of children countries in the world. We know that we have to reach within ourselves, that we can solve this problem, but we have to give up the business of cover-ups, of everybody going silent, of everybody bringing down the veil when these things happen. And we intend to use the agencies of Maoridom, the Maori Women's Welfare League, the Maori Wardens and the welfare state itself to turn these shocking results around.
At the same time, though, you want to repeal the anti-smacking law. So on one hand, you're saying it's okay to smack your kids. On the other hand, you're telling us child abuse is wrong.
Look,
that's a mixed message.
The Labour Party, National Party bloc voted for the anti-smacking legislation. Did the right parents get the people that you were targeting? Were those results turned around? No. The brutalisation of children increased. What we are saying is your legislation attacks good parents and does nothing about bad parents. We're going to get rid of the anti-smacking legislation, which is discriminatory against fine parenting in this country, and we're going to attack those who really are the target. Instead of having this hopeless parliamentarian decision which shows you how far they are removed from the country, 87% of New Zealand oppose that legislation, and we think that's that's wrong, that Parliament should ignore them.
All right, Mr Peters, when are we going to know, just finally, where you're going to stand?
It'll all be unveiled very, very shortly, but I can tell you this, from Invercargill to Kaitaia, we'll be going flat out, and when the dust settles on election night, we'll have made chaff of those polls, and that has been our past record.
Those polls are pretty brutal on you at the moment.
Oh, no, stop a second. Those polls that you used in this program today were wrong by almost 1,100% in 2002, 500% in 2005, and 500% in 2008. Just don't go on misleading people.
They are the indicators that we use.
No, they're not indicators. Look, it's childish. If you have a poll that has 1/3 of the people who won't give you an answer, ask the people, look at the people out there and tell me, how do you get up to 100%? When you've got 1/3 who are not answering you, to put those polls out means you're guilty of fraud. Now, you know, it's not helping the political process either.
We have to do these polls, though. We do need to have these indicators. We should see how you go.
The Horizon poll says that we're between 6 and 8.9%. So why don't you support that poll?
Indeed. All right. Winston Peters, as always, thank you for your time.